All right, next we want to talk to a mental health counselor, a speaker, and author from Kansas City, Michael McGill Jr. He has had a long day. He was on the Fox 4 morning show today, and he's making time for us tonight. Michael, we're living in tough times right now, but you have come up with 5 coping strategies specifically to help young people who are dealing with their feelings of anxiety, depression. Maybe they're struggling to be motivated right now. Tell us about those.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I do part psychoeducation, then part giving people the insight that they can use to deal with the stressors, because the reality is that stress impacts us all. Stress is a real thing, it's alive. In fact, we even see some research that shows how stress can really change the actual DNA in people. And so sometimes that stress can then be passed down from generation to generation to generation. That's why it's so critical. It's critical for parents and caregivers out there that we really model effective stress management tools and self-soothing tools and techniques for young people, because stress is ubiquitous, especially now. It's magnanimous. But the question here is, how do we teach people how to regulate it and deal with it and feel it so that they won't then act out in negative ways and in negative, what we call negative coping or self-soothing ways. And so that's really the question of the hour is, how do I actually deal? And this is what I say: you first and foremost have to be able to feel it in order to deal with it, so you can then heal from it. So feel, deal, heal. That's a formula that I really believe in. And so often we are quick to push stress away and not allow ourselves to feel it. But if we don't feel the stress and lean into the discomfort, whether it's racial, whether it's familial, whether it's whatever, if we don't lean in to feel the stress, we can't deal with it. And without dealing, we can't heal from it. And so the first thing I give people is insight around understanding the different types of nervous systems that we have. We have 2 main types of nervous systems, if I can be a nerd, as Mayor Quentin just said. We have the sympathetic nervous system and then the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system's job is really all about your automatic dispensaries in the body, primarily the fight, flight, freeze responses. And so it comes from what we call the animal brain, the reptilian brain, or the brain stem. That's all about the regulatory things your body does without you even being conscious of it. So you know how to breathe, you know how to your food or your body can digest food without you even being aware of it. It's automatic. And that's where that sympathetic nervous system comes from. But then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's all about rest, creating a new sense of homeostasis, being able to deal with stressors and kind of calm down some. But the issue is, if we don't have practical measures in place, we can constantly be in that animal brain, that brain stem, that's again all about fight, flight, freeze. And if you stay in that animal brain too much, it can cause your body to produce way too many stress hormones and that cortisone, all those things that can really handicap the body. But this is what's crazy about it, Lauren. On one hand, it's a blessing, because if we're ever in danger, we need that stress hormone to be released. But on the other hand, it can be a burden, because if you have too much of it, just like potassium, it can kill you, right? So the power of understanding your sympathetic nervous system and how that's needed and necessary. But when you feel your body and your adrenaline too high and for too long, you really want to be able to find ways to soothe it, to go from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic.
How do we do that?
That's a good question. So I believe in the power of writing. That's one way that we can do it. So let me back up some. And also, in addition to the stressors, I want to explain that stress is not always a bad thing. So I don't want to immediately debunk it, but we have what we call the eustress, and then we have what we call the acute stress. So eustress is more about the good stressor. So when I'm going on a date and I want to see my boo or my bae, and I get these little butterflies in my stomach,
Right, things we get excited about.
That can kind of be, what'd you say?
Things we get excited about, feel good about.
It can get me something excited: the job, the scholarship, or the college, all that good stuff, going on the date, all that good stuff. So we have good stress, and that's okay. But it's the acute stress, and then when it's prolonged for a consistent amount of time, that's when it's dangerous. But I'll give people a couple of tips. And one is the power of writing down our frustrations. I think we sometimes minimize the power of writing, but there is neurological research that shows that when we write things down, we are actually having a marriage between both hemispheres of the brain. So we have the left side of the brain that's logical, and we have the right side of the brain that's more creative. And so when you're able to write things down, and that's the power of writing, you were able to marry the 2 spheres of the brain to give you the ability to process what you're feeling, to give you the ability to feel what you're feeling, to give you the ability to deal with what you are feeling. And the more you are able to process and deal with those frustrations, deal with that anxiety, write down what actually is. So here's what I say. In this moment, I am feeling what? In this moment, I am feeling anxious because. In this moment, I am feeling stressed because. In this moment, I am feeling worried because. Being able to develop a good emotional vocabulary is important because, again, the more you write stuff down, the less likely you are to stay in that sympathetic nervous system, and the more likely you are to go in the parasympathetic nervous system. And the other thing that I'll say is the practicing the art of gratitude. And gratitude is something that we have researched within the new realm of positive psychology. And the research is very abundantly clear that our brains are plastic. When I say plastic, it's the concept of the plasticity of the brain. The brains are plastic. They can be morphed and molded based on experiences. They can be morphed and molded based on what you do. So it's the same thing with exercise. When you're exercising, you're literally tearing the muscles apart just so that they can be born again. I know that Wesley, he does a lot with athletic equipment and athletic activities. And so he can attest to the power of exercising, that when you are actually exercising, you're breaking the muscles down just to build them back up again. And that's a powerful thing to do. And so the brain, the body, it has a layer of plasticity. And so what we know is that when you practice the art of gratitude, there was some research done out of the University of California, Davis, that showed that it can increase our layers of happiness by up to 25%. So what we know is it doesn't have to be something extremely ubiquitous or big. It can be in this moment. Like me earlier today, I was on television a few times this morning, and in this moment, I am grateful that my grandmother, who is 80, is able to call me and watch me and celebrate with me moments that bring me joy. In this moment, I'm able to commune with my mother. In this moment, I'm able to feel A, B, C, D, E. So when you're able to, if we develop a ritual, it must be pragmatic and it must be consistent. Develop a ritual every day. If you have a journal next to your bed, 3 to 4 things that you're grateful for, 3 or 4 things that bring you joy. Write those down. And when you're able to do that, we even see that there's a connection between gratitude and physical health, gratitude and emotional health, gratitude and spiritual health. It even impacts your sleeping. It even impacts your ability to sleep. That's the power of gratitude. It changes, it creates new neurons. It changes the neurological network. It actually changes the brain. And the last thing I'll say is being able to practice the gift of sacred artistry. Sacred artistry, I believe anything you do that's creative, anything you do that is technical, anything you do that is unique, it's sacred and it's artistry. So for example, for me, sacred artistry is cooking. I love to eat and I love to cook. I love to cook things that are fresh. I love trying new vegetables, new herbs. I tend to burn bread a lot, so I'm trying to find a way not to burn as much bread. But I really am trying to learn how to find new recipes, mess them up, fix them up, try them again. That's sacred artistry. Exercise is a form of sacred artistry. You are building your body up. Creative stuff. If you are a poet, if you like to go hiking, I love hiking. I now live on the East Coast, and we have some really cool hiking areas in the DC area. And so I love hiking and just sitting by the waters that bring my soul quietness and stillness. Activism. We see what's happening or rallying around this concept of racial justice and the concept of the Black Lives Matter movement, expressing the need to validate the pain and the plight and experiences of Black lives. Activism shows you and reminds you that you have a voice in this world and you deserve to be heard. Your voice matters. Your voice is powerful. You have a contribution. When you do these things, it's helping you develop a high sense of self-esteem, a high sense of self-efficacy, knowing that I'm a voice in this world. I deserve to be heard. I have something to say, and I'm going to change the world today. So that's really the things that I have for you. But I also encourage parents to model these behaviors, to encourage, to uplift, to impart into our young people a high degree of worthiness, that regardless of what they face, regardless of what they deal with, they are worthy. Even when their behaviors are unlovable, they are still worthy and lovable. Even when their behaviors are ill or bad, they are still worthy. It's times like these that can really bring parents and kids together, that can really bring families together, really sitting in that sense of worthiness. So that's what I have for you. Does that answer all your questions, or do you have some more? You see, I like to talk.
Amen, brother. Preach it.
Amen.
Those are
Yes.
fantastic for
And
all
if
of
you
us.
can't say amen, say ouch. That's what I know.
Okay, we're going to throw his points up one more time for you. His top 5 tips here that he gave us. Understanding your nervous system, use stress.
Yes.
See, I learned a new word tonight, versus acute
You
stress.
learned a new word. And I'm glad you could pronounce it. I didn't know. 'Cause
Well,
some
thanks
folks
to
can't.
you.
I couldn't for years.
Write down your frustrations, and then write down your gratitude. What are you grateful for today? And practice sacred art. I like that one because it's really about finding your passion. That helps direct you
Yes.
into your passion. Thank you so much, Michael. Great advice on how to have a voice. You can find a link to Michael's website on our website as well, fox4kc.com/working for youth summit.